Welcome everyone to Arkeo's channel. This is Jed, and today we're doing this faith and final segment of our channel. I'm here today with Pastor Mark, lead pastor of Mississauga Victory Church. Hey Mark, how's it going? Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hey Jed, it's good to be here. I'm glad to be on my first episode of your podcast for Arkeo. This is great. So I'm here in Mississauga, Ontario, just west of Toronto. I do pastor a church here. I just started pastoring this church last April, although I've been in ministry for 30 years. I think it's relevant for our hearers to understand that I was in ministry for 30 plus years, and then I thought that I was going to retire because I did feel like God had told me to step down from my positions at the time. I was pastoring a church. I was also the head of I was a national coordinator for a ministry here in Canada, and I felt the Lord was telling me to step down. So I did, and I didn't know what He wanted me to do, and shortly after that He got me into the business world. I ended up working in the marketplace as a trainer and as a business development manager for an insurance company, well actually for a managing general agency, which was national-wide. I ended up traveling all over the country. Actually got to visit almost all the provinces in Canada, and to train thousands of people with regards to leadership, to sales, and in some of the products and that kind of thing. I did that for quite a number of years. I guess from end of 2017, beginning of 2018, until second year to COVID. So up until when did COVID start? 2019, 2020. So until about 2021, I guess, is when I retired from that. So it's like, and then now I'm back in ministry. I learned a lot. In that I loved being in the marketplace. To be honest with you, I used to say this all the time. I'm on record as saying that what I was doing at the time was like the best job in the world, short of ministry, right? I love doing ministry, still doing it now, and serving God. But in terms of all the jobs that I've ever held in my life, I'm in my 50s now, almost my 60s. I think that job that I had as a trainer and as a business development manager was the best that I've ever experienced. I got to travel, got to meet new people, got to teach, didn't have a lot of restrictions on what I taught, which meant that I had a lot of creative freedom to teach what I felt was necessary for people, and learned a lot about money. Oh my gosh, if I learned anything, when I first started, I learned what I didn't know. It's like I learned that most of us really don't have a good financial education, even if you did grow up here in Canada. I've been here in Canada for most of my life. Moved here when I was 7 years old from California, and been here ever since, right? So yeah, that's me, and I'm glad to be talking about this topic. It's a very interesting topic. Again, what's the question we're going to answer today, right?
First off, that seems like quite the adventure you've had throughout your career. But yeah, our topic for today is money evil? A lot of people have misconceptions about money, especially Christians. And I believe it's very important that we tackle this subject today. So what are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Well, to be honest with you, I think there are people, people can approach it differently. I think when they look at money itself, I think personally money is amoral. So if you say it's evil, is it good, is it evil? I think it's neither good or evil, it's just there. But a lot of people, for example, and this is true in the church. There's no difference, but the attitudes that people have, I find, are similar whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, which is kind of weird because the Bible's pretty clear about it, and so it means that pastors like me, we're not doing our job enough to educate people regarding money. So on one extreme, you have people, for example, and I'm not making like a criticism regarding the particular ministry, but I will mention something specific examples just so that people will have a concrete understanding. For example, in the Roman Catholic Church, they often make priests take a vow of poverty, and I didn't grow up Roman Catholic, so this is hearsay for me. Like I've said, my wife is Catholic, but my understanding is that many of the priests either are required to take a vow of poverty or they're encouraged to do that, but it's their free will. I'm not quite sure, but I know that exists within that particular religious system. And so they kind of have this mentality that the poorer you are, the more spiritual you are. So they tend to look at money as something of an evil kind of thing. They would say yes to that question. On the other hand, you do have, and I'm more familiar with this group of people in the church, which is churches and ministries that promote what we call the prosperity gospel. And they talk a lot about abundance. You'll hear keywords that they drop like abundance and prosperity and success and riches and wealth. Health, for example, health and wealth gospel, it's often also called beside prosperity gospel. And on that side, on that side of the spectrum, you would think that money is everything, that God is mostly concerned about money and giving you money and wanting you to be rich and wanting you to be blessed, quote unquote blessed. And that's really, unfortunately, on that side of the spectrum and in those kind of churches, being blessed is equivalent to having money, and which is not necessarily what the Bible teaches. So you've got those two extremes. Now I'm kind of in the middle of that, in the sense that I think money is amoral, right? So it's neither evil or good, but there are some problems that can arise from the things that surround money.
Yeah,
You know what I
like
mean? Does that make
a
sense?
lot of people quote this verse: "Money, the love of money, is the root of all evil." And I think that's the one that causes a lot of misunderstandings, right?
That's true. And actually, let's read that again. And in fact, I want to read the verse that goes before that and the verse that comes after that, because I think that we need to make a correction there in what you quoted. So that verse that verse that you quoted, the money is the root of all evil, comes from 1 Timothy chapter 6, and that's actually verse 10. So 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 10. But I want to read verse 9 and then the rest of verse 10, because that's only the beginning of verse 10. So verse 9 starts with this: "Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction." And then verse 10 comes in: "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." And the rest of it says, "Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." So what I want to point out first of all is we need to make a little bit of correction, because quite a number of people quote this verse wrongly. And you kind of did that yourself. I don't think you caught that, because the verse 10 says, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." It's not the root of all kinds of evil. And often when you misread it or misquote it, and you hear that from somebody, or you think to yourself, the love of money is the root of all evil, then you say, "Oh, money must be evil then, because if it's the root of all evil, then it must be evil." It's not, right? It's not the root. It's a root. It's one of the things that at the very core, when you love money, it can produce a lot of bad things happening in your life and in other people's lives. Also, we should take a look at that verse to remember that it doesn't say that money is a root of all evil. It says the love of money. There's a difference between money and the love of money. Again, like I said, I feel that money is amoral. There's no good or bad about it. It just is. It's just a way of exchanging, right? It's currency that we use to exchange value, something valuable for that value. And really, when you look at the history of money, which I know on your channel you've done this, Jed, money is just a promise, right? Paper money is just a promise. Instead of carrying around little bags of gold or coins that we share to exchange, we use promissory notes called cash, and that's what we use to exchange for goods and services. Remember that kind of stuff, that's just what it is. I mean, that's just how the world works. It's the love of that is a root that can become a root of all sorts of problems. Now, the verse before that, in verse 9, it says, those who want to get rich. So those who want to get rich have a love for money, fall into temptation and a trap, and to many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. And I've seen this firsthand. I've seen this in my own family. I've seen this in other people's families where the love of money has really ruined people, especially when the love of money has expressed itself through, for example, unbridled and undisciplined gambling, for example. That happened in my family. My family was destroyed, not my own family, like with my wife and kids, but my parents' marriage was destroyed because of unbridled gambling, and because of that love for money. And sometimes the love of money, it's not even the love of money itself. If you talk to people who have that problem, it's the thrill. It's what they get out of it, right? It's like a drug. And that's why you have organizations like Gamblers Anonymous with that. Again, that is the temptation, that is the trap, that is the ruin and destruction that the Bible talks about. The Bible is very practical. And so when the love of money, the pursuit of wealth, becomes destructive like that, then in that case, that love for money, that was evil. That was evil because of the fruit, of the result, the consequences of that pursuit. Destroyed a family, destroyed a business, destroyed someone's finances, destroyed a marriage, destroyed, just a home, basically. And so in that case, yes, money can be something, the pursuit of money can become an evil thing. And then it also says later on in that verse, after that sentence, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, says some people eager for money, again, the love of money, have wandered from the faith. So in the sense that if your money makes you walk away from God, then it says here, they walked away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So that's another negative consequence, right, of the love of money. And I've seen this happen. I've seen Christians who get blessed. They pray, they fast, they do everything that they can. They try to walk in obedience, and God blesses them. And the very blessing that God gave them, they're using that to finance their walk away from God, which is ironic, right? The more blessed, the more prosperous, the more successful they have, the less time they have all of a sudden for God. They have less time they have to pray, the less time they go to church. Why? Because, I got to take care of my business, I got to do business on Sundays. It's the only time that people will let me talk to them, etc., etc. And you end up at the end of it all, you end up exchanging the blessing for the blesser, or the other way around. You've exchanged the blesser, God, for the blessing, and it just doesn't make sense. In the end, it destroys you. And so in that way, money can, the love of money can.
Yeah. So when money becomes the be all and end all, right? And you would do anything to gain the money, that's when it becomes more destructive, right? That's why we got the...
Well, it is. And the funny thing is, you think that only rich people have that problem, but it's not. Even middle class and lower class people have love for money.
That's
they
right.
think that everything revolves around money, and they'll do whatever they can to get it. And so it's that becomes the problem. And it doesn't matter what strata, what economic strata you're in, whether you're poor, you're middle class, or you're rich, you can still have a problem with the love of money.
Yeah, makes sense. So I hope that everyone got that. That's a pretty interesting topic. So I guess this leads us into our next question, or I guess this could be the next episode, is wanting to be rich wrong then? Like, what's the desire for that?
You know what? That's a good idea.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Mark, for joining us. And that's it for our episode today.
Thanks, Jed. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.